The first time I saw him, I knew he was dangerous. It wasn't the expensive suit that gave Adrian Moretti away, nor the quiet deference his companions showed him as they slid into the corner booth by the window. It was his eyes dark, watchful, missing nothing as they scanned the restaurant before settling on the little girl beside him. My section was packed that rainy autumn evening. Romano's sat on the river's edge, its windows reflecting the golden glow of string lights, while the suspension bridge beyond scattered luminous spots across the black water. I'd been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight days at Mercy Hospital emergency room, nights here serving pasta to people who spent more on wine than my monthly rent. Table 7 needs their check. Marco, the manager, muttered as he passed, and Moretti's here with his kid. Special treatment, capiche? I felt a chill at the name. Everyone knew the Moretti family controlled half the shipping operations on the eastern seaboard, though the papers called them logistics entrepreneurs. Their protection kept Romano's safe from everyone but them. Got it, I said, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. I needed this job. The nursing degree was almost paid off, but the legal bills were crushing me. My soon-to-be ex-husband, Ethan, was fighting for custody of our 6-year-old son, Leo, using his position as a patrol officer to intimidate and threaten. Each week brought new lawyer fees as I tried to document the financial control, the tracking, the veiled threats. As I approached Table 7 with their tiramisu, I caught sight of the little girl at Moretti's table, 4, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls and solemn eyes that followed my movements. She wore a velvet dress that probably cost more than all my son's clothes combined. Beside her, Adrian Moretti looked oddly domestic. Cutting her spaghetti into smaller pieces, I delivered the dessert, dropped off 2 more drink orders, then headed to the Moretti table. Professional smile, steady hands, just another night. Good evening and welcome to Romano's. I'm Maya. I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you with something to drink? The girl kept staring at me. Not the casual glance of a child, but an intense focus that seemed too heavy for her small face. Sparkling water for me. Still water for my daughter, Moretti said, his voice deeper than I expected, accent barely detectable. Sophia, say hello to the nice lady. The child didn't respond. She just kept looking at me, clutching a small sketchbook. I apologize, he said with a hint of sadness. She doesn't speak much these days. I softened my smile, addressing the little girl directly. That's okay, Sophia. I like your sketchbook. My son Leo loves to draw too. Nothing. Not even a blink. I'll be right back with your water, I said, turning away. As I headed toward the bar, Marco intercepted me. Moretti bought a 30% stake last month. Whatever he wants, he gets. His eyes narrowed. And I hear his kid hasn't spoken since her mother died 3 years ago. I nodded, filing the information away. Selective mutism wasn't uncommon after trauma, especially in children. I'd seen similar cases at the hospital. I returned with their drinks, taking their dinner ordere linguine for him, plain buttered pasta for Sophia. The night progressed normally, the rain intensifying outside, patrons coming and going in waves. I checked on their table periodically, receiving polite nods from Moretti and silence from Sophia. When I brought their main courses, everything changed. I placed Sophia's plate before her first. Careful, sweetie, it's hot. Then, as I set down her father's linguine, the little girl suddenly pointed directly at me. Her small voice cut through the ambient restaurant noise like a knife. Mommy! The word hung in the air, clear, unmistakable. I froze, the breadbasket suspended in my hands. Moretti went completely still, his expression shifting from shock to confusion to something I couldn't read. Sophia, he whispered, turning to her. Mommy, she repeated, still pointing at me, her voice stronger this time. My hands trembled, milk from the creamer sloshing onto the white tablecloth. Other diners had turned to look. Marco was staring from across the room, phone already in hand. I'm so sorry, I stammered. I'm not a yur. I mean a yur. It's the first time she's spoken in months, Moretti said quietly, his intense gaze now fixed on me. Before I could respond, A commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. My stomach dropped as I recognized the swagger, the leather jacket, the barely contained anger. Ethan. He scanned the restaurant, eyes locking on me. Even from a distance, I could see the tightness in his jaw, the dangerous glint in his eyes that always preceded his episodes. "Who is that?" Moretti asked, following my gaze. "No one," I said quickly. "Excuse me." I hurried toward Ethan, hoping to head him off before he could make a scene, but I was too late. He'd already pulled out his phone, snapping photos of me standing at Moretti's table. "Payment's due tomorrow," he hissed when I reached him, "or the judge hears how you're moonlighting with the mob." "Ethan, not here I saw that little scene," he continued, his voice low but menacing. "New boyfriend's got a kid calling you mommy. Already Judge Wilson would find that real interesting." I felt my cheeks burning. "This is my workplace. Leave now," he smirked, backing toward the door. "Tomorrow, 3,000, or I show the judge how you're neglecting Leo to play house with criminals." After he left, I stood shaking in the entryway until one of the busboys touched my shoulder. "Maya, table 9 needs refills." The rest of the night passed in a blur. I avoided looking directly at Moretti, though I felt his eyes following me. When they finally asked for the check, I brought it promptly, hoping to end this bizarre evening. "My daughter never speaks to strangers," he said as I processed his credit card. "Not since her mother passed." I nodded, unsure how to respond. "Yet she called you mommy." His eyes searched mine. "Why do you think that is?" "Children sometimes make unexpected connections," I said carefully. "I work with kids in the ER too. They surprise us." He accepted his receipt, then withdrew a business card from an inner pocket, plain white with only a phone number embossed in black. "If you ever need anything, call this number, anytime." "That's not necessary. Mr. Moretti." "Adrian," he corrected. "And yes, it is." His gaze flicked toward the door where Ethan had stood. Some men don't take rejection well. I recognized the type. I hesitated, then took the card, tucking it into my apron. "Thank you." Sophia watched this exchange, then opened her sketchbook and held up a drawing. Ear stick figure standing near something blue and wavy. Water, perhaps. "It's beautiful," I told her with a genuine smile. Adrian helped Sophia with her coat, left a tip that made my eyes widen, and headed toward the door. At the last moment, Sophia turned back, her small hand raised in a wave. I waved back, not knowing that this moment to this child choosing me with a single word had irrevocably changed all our paths. The restaurant's security camera captured it all. And in the back office, Marco was already sending the footage to Bruno Santoro, whispering into his phone. The kid called her, "Mommy AE, your heaven-sent opportunity. We should exploit this." Later that night, as I counted my tips and calculated how far short I still was for Ethan's extortion payment, I had no idea that forces were already in motion. Forces that would threaten everything I loved, reveal long-buried truths, and ultimately offer a chance at the family neither Sophia nor I knew we were searching for. But first, there would be blood, fire, and the black water waiting to claim its due. I couldn't sleep that night. Leo had finally drifted off around 10, clutching his favorite toy tugboat. But my mind kept returning to that moment in the restaurant, a little girl's voice breaking through months of silence to call me mommy. I'd seen enough in my nursing career to know how trauma affects children. Selective mutism was a refuge, a fortress they built when the world became too frightening or unpredictable. What had made Sophia Moretti choose me as the person to break her silence for at 3 a.m.? I gave up on sleep and checked the locks again, your door, windows, the chair wedged under the doorknob that wouldn't stop Ethan if he really wanted to get in but gave me some peace of mind. Our apartment was small but clean, the best I could afford on the outskirts of Greenpoint. From the window, I could just make out the river and the lights of Manhattan beyond. My phone buzzed with a text. "Unknown number, 3,000 tomorrow. Or I file the emergency custody papers. I deleted it, adding the number to Ethan's growing block list. He'd just create another. It was his pattern a year: escalate, intimidate, wear me down. The same tactics that had worked for 6 years of marriage until I finally escaped with Leo. By 7, I'd made Leo's lunch, braided my long dark hair into a tight bun for my ER shift, and was helping my son with his Velcro shoes. "Can we go to the boat park this weekend?" he asked. His eyes at EUR so like mine EUR bright with hope. "Maybe Sunday, baby. Mommy has extra shifts." I straightened his collar, my heart aching at the disappointment on his face. "But we'll make cookies tonight. Okay, the dinosaur ones." He nodded, then suddenly wrapped his arms around my neck. "I don't want to go to Daddy's on Saturday." "It's just for a few hours," I said, hiding my own anxiety. "You'll be home for dinner." The custody arrangement was temporary, EEUR, every other Saturday for 4 hours. Supervised. But Ethan had been pushing for more, threatening to expose my second job, claiming my hours made me an unfit mother. I dropped Leo at school, watching until he disappeared inside before heading to Mercy Hospital for my 12-hour shift. The emergency room was my other world IUR, ordered chaos, where my competence was never questioned. Blood and pain didn't frighten me. It was the slow erosion of my freedom that kept me up at night. "Torres, we've got incoming trauma. Car versus pedestrian," called Dr. Reyes as I entered the ER. "Need you on fluids and monitoring." I nodded, slipping into the familiar rhythm of emergency medicine. For the next several hours, I moved between patients AEUR, a college student with alcohol poisoning, an elderly man with pneumonia, a toddler who'd swallowed a coin, each life momentarily intersecting with mine, each crisis resolved with practiced efficiency during my break. I checked my phone to find 3 missed calls from Marco at Romano's. I stepped outside to return them, bracing myself against the autumn chill. "Maya, glad you called back," Marco said, his tone overly friendly. "Listen, we need you to stay on your regular dinner shifts this week. Can't move you to lunch like you asked." "Marco, I explained my situation. I need those day shifts to be home evenings with my son. We're short-staffed, and certain customers prefer your service." His voice hardened slightly, particularly our investor. "His daughter seems quite taken with you." My skin prickled. "Mr. Moretti." "The very same. He specifically requested you for their regular Thursday dinners." "I can tire—" "Maya," Marco interrupted, dropping all pretense of friendliness. "This isn't a request. You work your assigned shifts or find another job, and we both know how badly you need the money." I closed my eyes, swallowing my frustration. "Fine. This week only." After hanging up, I leaned against the hospital wall, exhaustion washing over me. Another week of scrambling for childcare, another week of barely seeing Leo. But I needed both incomes, EUR the hospital for benefits and stability, Romano's for the cash tips that were paying my lawyer. As I turned to go back inside, my phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patel, my elderly neighbor who watched Leo after school. "Strange man asking questions about you in the building. Said he was from Leo's school. I didn't tell him anything. My heart raced as I typed back. What did he look like? Tall? Light hair? Badge on belt? Didn't look like a teacher to me." Ethan, it had to be. Using his uniform to intimidate my neighbors now. I finished my shift in a fog of anxiety, then picked up Leo from after-school care. We made the promised dinosaur cookies, read 3 bedtime stories, and I sat by his bed until his breathing deepened into sleep. Only then did I allow myself to cry. Quick, silent tears that I wiped away almost immediately. Weakness was a luxury I couldn't afford. My phone rang just as I was checking the locks again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something a your instinct, perhaps a your, made me accept the call. Maya Torres. A deep voice. Vaguely familiar. "Who is this?" "Adrian Moretti. We met at Romano's last night." I sank onto the couch, suddenly lightheaded. "How did you get my number?" "That's not important. What's important is that I've had my people look into your situation." "My situation?" I felt a surge of anger. "You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone who interacts with my daughter," he replied evenly. especially someone who inspired her to speak for the first time in 11 months. I remained silent, unsure what to say. Your husband, your soon-to-be ex, Husbanda Yur has a history of departmental complaints, all buried, all involving partners or subordinates. His voice was matter-of-fact, as if reading a shopping list. He's been watching your apartment, and he's been in contact with someone who works for Bruno Santoro, the restaurant owner. Among other things, Santoro and I have competing interests. Mr. Meredia Yur, Adrian, he corrected again. Adrian, I conceded. I appreciate the information, but I don't understand why you're involved in my personal life. There was a pause. Then, Sophia's therapist believes your presence triggered something important for her. She's suggesting we shouldn't disrupt this potential connection. I closed my eyes, seeing where this was heading. I'm a waitress who served you dinner, not a child psychologist. Her therapist thinks differently. She's recommending limited, supervised interaction. That's not possible. I have a son, 2 jobs, a custody battle, Eeyore. I'm offering you a position, he interrupted. Part-time childcare for Sophia, 3 afternoons a week, triple your Romano's salary, plus benefits. The amount he named made me gasp. It would cover my legal fees, maybe even allow me to cut back my hospital hours. This is inappropriate, I said finally. Is it? His tone remained calm. Sophia hasn't spoken in almost a year, then says one word, I year to you. Her therapist believes this connection could be healing for her. I'm offering fair compensation for your time. Why would you trust your daughter with a complete stranger? I don't trust easily, Maya, but I've done my research on you. Nursing degree with honors. 6 years experience in emergency medicine. No criminal record. Active restraining order against your husband that the department keeps losing paperwork on. He paused. And Sophia chose you. That counts for something. I looked around my small apartment, EUR, the secondhand furniture, the water stain on the ceiling, the pile of bills on the counter, then at Leo's backpack, adorned with tugboats and anchors, ready for tomorrow. I need to think about it, I said finally. Of course, but don't take too long. His voice softened slightly. And Maya, check your son's backpack. Your husband may be tracking you. The line went dead. I sat frozen for a moment, then lunged for Leo's bag, dumping the contents onto the floor. Buried in the front pocket was a small, round device, an AirTag. My hands shook as I held it up to the light, tears of rage and fear blurring my vision. Ethan had been tracking my son, had been tracking me through our child. I crushed the device under my heel, then swept up the pieces. Tomorrow I would report this, file for an emergency modification of the custody order, but I knew how these things worked. Your Ethan's friends in the department would stall, evidence would disappear, and nothing would change. Unless I changed the game. I retrieved Adrian Moretti's business card from my purse and stared at the embossed number. Making this call meant crossing a linear involving myself with a man who, despite his elegant manners and apparent concern, was rumored to have blood on his hands. But as I looked at the shattered tracking device on my counter, I realized I was already in a war, and I was losing. I dialed the number. Adrian's home wasn't what I expected. I don't know what I'd imagined some ostentatious mansion with gilded fountains and armed guards. Perhaps, instead, the town car dropped me at a renovated brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, elegant but understated, with large windows and a small, immaculate garden. Miss Torres greeted an older woman at the door, her silver hair pulled into a neat bun. I'm Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper. Mr. Moretti is in a meeting, but asked that I show you in. Sophia is in the playroom. I followed her through the house, noting the clean lines, the tasteful art, the conspicuous absence of security personnel, though I had no doubt they were somewhere nearby. The place had the warm, lived-in feeling of a real home, not a showpiece. The playroom was painted a soft blue, with bookshelves, a reading nook, and a child-sized art table where Sophia sat, focused intently on her drawing. She wore simple leggings and a sweater, her dark curls tamed into 2 braids. Sophia, Mrs., Winters said gently. Miss, Torres is here to see you." The little girl looked up, her serious eyes finding mine. No smile, but a small nod of acknowledgement. "Hello, Sophia?" I said, kneeling to her level. "I remember you from the restaurant. May I see what you're drawing?" She hesitated, then turned the sketchbook toward me. It showed 3 figures or yaoyur, a tall one, a small one, and a medium one to yaoyur standing on what looked like a pier over blue water. Simple child's drawings, but there was something haunting about them. "That's beautiful," I said. "Is that your dad?" I pointed to the tall figure. She nodded. "And is this you?" I indicated the small figure. Another nod. "And who's this?" I asked, pointing to the 3rd figure. She pushed the sketchbook toward me, then reached for a red crayon, carefully drawing long hair on the 3rd figure. "Is that me?" I asked softly. Sophia met my eyes directly, then nodded once, firmly. "Sophia has drawn that same scene repeatedly over the past week," came a voice from the doorway. Adrian stood there, his suit jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled to reveal strong forearms. "Her therapist says it's significant." I stood, suddenly conscious of my simple blouse and jeans. "Mr. Moretti, you're—" "Adrian," he corrected automatically, entering the room. "Sophia, why don't you show Maya your books while I speak with Mrs. Winters?" The child nodded, taking my hand without hesitation and leading me to the reading nook. Her small fingers were warm in mine, trusting in a way that made my chest ache. She selected a book about ocean animals and placed it in my lap as we sat together on the window seat. As I began to read, I was acutely aware of Adrian watching us from across the room, his expression unreadable. There was something both intimidating and vulnerable about him, your power carefully controlled, grief barely concealed. After Mrs. Winters left, he approached, sitting in a chair opposite us. "Sophia has therapy sessions 3 times a week," he explained as I finished the book. "Language therapy on Mondays, play therapy on Wednesdays, family therapy on Fridays. The schedule is in the folder Mrs. Winters prepared for you, along with emergency contacts, dietary restrictions, and security protocols." "Security protocols," I raised an eyebrow. "Standard precautions," he said dismissively. "Sophia doesn't leave the house without security. If you take her to the park or for ice cream EEUR, which is encouraged UR, Thomas will accompany you. He's trained but discreet." I nodded slowly. The reality of who Adrian was at EUR, who his family was AEUR, sinking in. I should be clear about something. I'm a nurse, not a bodyguard or a language specialist. I can provide care and companionship, but I'm not qualified to EUR. "You're exactly qualified," he interrupted. "Sophia's therapists believe she needs normal, nurturing interaction. The clinical sessions are important, but they're not enough. She needs—" He hesitated, seemingly uncomfortable. "Warmth. A female presence." There was more to this story than he was telling me, but I let it go for now. "And you're comfortable having a stranger watch your daughter?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You're not a stranger to Sophia. She's chosen you, for whatever reason, and I've learned to trust my daughter's instincts." Sophia, as if understanding our conversation, leaned against my side. Her small body relaxed in a way that seemed significant. 3 afternoons a week, I said. "Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. After her therapy, I'll need to be home by 7 for my son." "Agreed, and if you ever need to bring him, that's acceptable. Sophia might benefit from interaction with other children." I nodded, though I couldn't imagine willingly bringing Leo into this world. Not yet. "There's one more thing," Adrian said, his tone shifting. "I've taken the liberty of retaining Klein Associates on your behalf. Jonathan Klein is the best family law attorney in the city." I stiffened. "I already have a lawyer who's clearly out of his depth if your husband is still harassing you with impunity. I can't accept that. It's too much. Consider it a signing bonus." His eyes held mine. "The AirTag in your son's backpack crossed a line. Maya, it would be a shame if Officer Ward's superiors found out he was using department resources to stalk his estranged wife." A chill ran through me. "Are you threatening my husband? Not at all. I'm suggesting that proper legal channels can be effective when navigated correctly." He leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to compromise your principles. I'm offering resources to level the playing field." Sophia had gone very still beside me, her eyes darting between us. I forced myself to relax, aware of how children absorb tension. "I'll meet with Mr. Klein," I conceded. "But that's all I'm agreeing to for now." Adrian nodded, apparently satisfied. "His office will contact you. In the meantime, perhaps you and Sophia would like to see the garden. She's been growing sunflowers." The rest of the afternoon passed in a strange, domestic tranquility. Sophia showed me her flowers, her bookshelf, her collection of seashells. She didn't speak, but communicated through gestures, drawings, and occasionally taking my hand to lead me somewhere. It was as if she'd decided I belonged here and was matter-of-factly showing me my place in her world. When it was time to leave, she surprised me with a quick, fierce hug, then resumed her usual solemn expression. "She likes you," Adrian observed as he walked me to the door where a car was already waiting. "That's rare." "She's a special child," I said honestly. "Yes, she is." His expression softened briefly, revealing the depth of his love for his daughter. Then the mask of control returned. "Thomas will pick you up on Wednesday at 2. As the car pulled away, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street, a familiar figure in the driver's seat, Ethan, watching, always watching, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone in this fight. Whatever Adrian Moretti's motives are, whether purely for his daughter's benefit or something more complicated he had resources that Ethan couldn't match, and he'd just placed them at my disposal. The game was changing. I just hoped I wouldn't regret the new rules. The meeting with Jonathan Klein changed everything. His office occupied the top floor of a sleek midtown building, with views of Central Park that made me dizzy. The reception area alone was larger than my entire apartment, staffed by 3 immaculately dressed assistants who offered espresso in bone china cups. Klein himself was not what I expected. In his mid-60s, with steel gray hair and tortoiseshell glasses, he projected the calm authority of a man who had seen everything and was surprised by nothing. "Miss Torres," he greeted me, rising from behind his enormous desk. "Please, have a seat. I've reviewed your case thoroughly." I perched on the edge of an expensive leather chair, feeling out of place in my hospital scrubs. I'd come directly from my morning shift, too nervous to go home and change. "Mr. Moretti shouldn't have involved you without asking me," I said immediately. Klein's expression remained neutral. "Adrian has a tendency to be proactive when he sees an injustice, but I assure you, I represent you, not him. Your conversations with me are protected by attorney-client privilege. I can't afford you," I stated bluntly. "That's been taken care of, and before you object, consider it an advance against future services." "Future services? For your case against Officer Ward?" He opened a folder, revealing photographs that made my stomach turn. Ethan leaning against his patrol car outside Leo's school. Ethan in my building's lobby, speaking with neighbors. Ethan following me to work. "How did you get these?" I whispered. "That's not important. What's important is documenting a pattern of harassment and using it to secure full custody of your son." Klein leaned forward. "Miss Torres, your current attorney filed a basic restraining order that isn't being enforced because your husband has friends in the department. We need to escalate this to the Internal Affairs Bureau with evidence they can't ignore." My head spun. "That would end Ethan's career. Is that your concern? After he planted a tracking device on your child?" I closed my eyes briefly. "No, my concern is Leo's safety." "Then let me help you." Klein's voice softened. "I've handled dozens of cases involving law enforcement officers who abuse their position. The system protects them until it becomes too costly to do so. We need to make protecting Officer Ward too costly." For the next hour, Klein walked me through his strategy. You're filing formal complaints with Internal Affairs, documenting every violation of the restraining order, building a case for full custody based on Ethan's pattern of control and intimidation. "What about his claims that my work hours make me an unfit mother?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. "Many single parents work multiple jobs. The courts recognize economic necessity." Klein made a note. Besides, your new arrangement with the Moretti family provides more stability and better hours, doesn't it? I nodded reluctantly. For now. Then that's what we'll focus on. The court looks for stability, safety, and the child's best interests. He closed the folder. Miss Torres, I need you to trust the process. This won't be quick or easy, but if you follow my guidance, we have an excellent chance of securing your son's future. As I left Klein's office, I felt a strange mixture of hope and unease. I was playing with fire accepting help from a man like Adrian Moretti, involving myself in his world. But for Leo, I would walk through fire if necessary. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Hospital shifts in the mornings, afternoons with Sophia 3 times a week, evenings with Leo. I'd given notice at Romano's. Unable to maintain 3 jobs. The manager had been furious, especially after learning where I was now working. Moretti poached you, Marco had snarled. Santoro won't be happy. I'd simply returned my apron and walked out, his words following me. You've chosen a side whether you know it or not. Sophia was blossoming under our new routine. Still largely silent, she now occasionally whispered words to me when we were alone, or simple things like blue when choosing a crayon, or please when asking for a snack. Her therapist was amazed at the progress, confirming what I'd begun to suspect Sophia's mutism was selective, not trauma-induced paralysis. She was choosing when and with whom to speak. Adrian maintained a respectful distance during my visits, often working in his home office while I spent time with Sophia. Our interactions were brief, professional, but I caught him watching us sometimes with an expression I couldn't quite decipher, a EUR, something between gratitude and longing. One rainy Wednesday, 3 weeks into our arrangement, everything changed. I was helping Sophia build a castle out of blocks when my phone buzzed repeatedly. EUR, the emergency pattern I'd set for Leo's school. My heart racing. I answered immediately. Miss Torres. The principal's voice was tense. There was an incident at pickup. A man claiming to be Leo's father attempted to remove him from the after-school program. When our staff refused, EUR, as per your custody instructions, EUR, he became confrontational. Is Leo okay? I asked. My voice strangled. He's fine. Shaken, but physically unharmed. The man left when we called security. Buddha EUR. I'll be right there. I hung up, hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Sophia was watching me with large, concerned eyes. I'm sorry, sweetie, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to go check on my son. Let's find your dad, okay? She nodded, taking my hand as we went to Adrian's office. I knocked once, then opened the door when he called, "Enter." He was on the phone, but ended the call immediately upon seeing my face. What's wrong? Ethan tried to take Leo from school, I said, my voice breaking. I need to go, Of course. He was already standing, reaching for his jacket. I'll drive you. That's naughtier, Maya. His tone brooked no argument. You're in no condition to drive, and taxis will be scarce in this rain. Let me help. Sophia tugged at his sleeve, pointing to herself, then me. You want to come too? Adrian asked her. She nodded firmly. All right. He looked at me. If that's acceptable. 20 minutes later, we were pulling up to Leo's school in Adrian's black Audi. Thomas following discreetly in an SUV. The rain had intensified, pounding the roof and sheets as Adrian handed me an umbrella. We'll wait here, he said, gesturing to Sophia. Take all the time you need. I nodded gratefully and dashed through the downpour to the main entrance. Leo was waiting in the principal's office, his small face lighting up when he saw me. Mommy. He launched himself into my arms, and I held him tight, breathing in the scent of crayons and apple juice that clung to his hair. Are you okay, baby? I pulled back to examine him, relieved to see no signs of distress beyond mild confusion. He nodded. Daddy was mad. He said bad words. The principal, hovering nearby, grimaced. Officer Ward was quite insistent that he had the right to take Leo. When we showed him the custody order, he became aggressive. Fortunately, our security guard intervened before things escalated further. Thank you for protecting my son, I said, my voice thick with emotion. After signing the necessary forms, I led Leo toward the exit, texting Adrian that we were coming out. As we stepped outside, I saw Ethan's patrol car idling across the street. My grip on Leo's hand tightened. Adrian's Audi pulled up directly in front of us, the back door opening. I hurried Leo inside, climbing in after him, my heart pounding. "Leo, this is my friend, Mr. Moretti, and his daughter Sophia," I said as Adrian pulled away from the curb. "They were kind enough to give us a ride in the rain." Leo, always sociable, waved cheerfully. "Hi, I'm 6. How old are you?" Sophia held up 4 fingers, the ghost of a smile on her lips. "I like your braids," Leo continued. "They look like ropes for boats." Adrian caught my eye in the rearview mirror, one eyebrow raised in amusement. I shrugged, mouthing boats with a small smile. Leo's obsession with all things maritime was a constant in our lives. As we drove, I noticed Ethan's patrol car falling in behind us, keeping pace several car lengths back. "We're being followed," I said quietly, not wanting to alarm the children. Adrian's expression hardened. "I see him. Thomas is aware." The SUV had appeared beside us, effectively blocking Ethan from getting too close. "Where to?" Adrian asked. I hesitated, torn between the security of my apartment and the knowledge that Ethan knew exactly where I lived. "Perhaps my place would be safer for tonight," Adrian suggested, reading my thoughts. "You and Leo can use the guest suite. Sophia would enjoy the company." The children had already begun a tentative friendship, Leo showing Sophia his small toy boat he carried everywhere, Sophia listening with serious attention. "Okay," I agreed, surprising myself. "Just for tonight." Adrian nodded, then spoke quietly into his phone, presumably alerting Mrs. Winters to prepare for guests. By the time we reached his brownstone, Ethan was no longer following us, but the damage was done. He'd seen me with Adrian Moretti a year, seen Leo getting into his car. Whatever narrative he was building about me had just gained dangerous new elements. That evening was surreal in its domesticity. Mrs. Winters prepared a child-friendly dinner of homemade chicken fingers and roasted vegetables. The children ate at the kitchen island, while Adrian and I sat at the adjacent dining table, close enough to supervise but allowing them some independence. "Your son is remarkable," Adrian observed as Leo patiently showed Sophia how to dip her chicken in ketchup, making her giggle silently. "Very mature for his age." "He's had to be," I said, picking at my own food. "Kids adapt to their circumstances. Like Sophia." His gaze lingered on his daughter, though sometimes adaptation looks like silence. After dinner, the children played in the living room while Adrian and I sat with coffee, watching them build an elaborate fort with cushions and blankets. "You'll need to report today's incident to Klein," Adrian said quietly. "Attempted parental kidnapping is serious, especially coming from a police officer. It will be his word against mine. Again. Not this time." He sipped his coffee. "The school has security cameras. Klein will subpoena the footage." I stared into my cup, the reality of my situation washing over me in waves. This is never going to end, is it? Even if I get full custody, Ethan will always be there, watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. Adrian was silent for a long moment. "There are ways to ensure he loses interest." A chill ran through me. "I don't want to know what that means. It's not what you're thinking." His voice remained calm. "I mean financial and professional consequences. Men like your ex-husband respond to power. Right now, he believes he has all the power. That can change through legal channels." "You sound very certain." "I've dealt with men who abuse power my entire life." Something dark flickered across his face. "Sometimes the system works, if you know which levers to pull." Leo's laughter drew our attention. Sophia had emerged from the fort wearing a blanket as a cape, a rare smile lighting her solemn features. "She's happy with you," Adrian said softly. "Happier than she's been since—" He trailed off, but I understood. "Since her mother died." "What happened?" I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. "To Sophia's mother. I mean, Pain etched lines around his eyes. An accident, medication error at the hospital. Elena had a minor procedure, your routine. Outpatient. Someone switched her post-operative medication. Anaphylactic shock. His voice was clinically detached, but his knuckles were white around his coffee cup. She was gone before I could reach her. I'm so sorry. The words felt inadequate. That's every patient's nightmare. Every nurse's, too. The hospital called it a tragic accident, settled quietly. The nurse responsible disappeared before any charges could be filed. His jaw tightened. Sophia was with Elena that day. She saw everything. Understanding dawned. That's why she stopped speaking. He nodded once, sharply. The therapists call it traumatic mutism triggered by witnessing a parent's death. For months, she wouldn't let me out of her sight. Wouldn't speak, wouldn't draw, barely ate. And now she draws water, dark water, and 2 figures falling. Adrian set down his cup until she drew you, the 3rd figure on the pier. A shiver ran through me, though the room was warm. Something about this story felt incomplete, but I didn't press. Adrian's grief was palpable, and underneath it, something harder, your rage, perhaps, or guilt. The children's fort collapsed in a heap of giggles, breaking the heavy moment. Leo emerged triumphant, holding a cushion over his head, while Sophia clapped her hands in silent delight. It's getting late, I said, checking my watch. I should get Leo ready for bed. Adrian nodded. Mrs. Winters has prepared the guest suite. Everything you need should be there. Your toiletries, pajamas for both of you. I raised an eyebrow. You're very prepared for unexpected guests. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I believe in contingency planning. Later, after both children were asleep, Leo in the guest room's king-sized bed, Sophia in her own room down the hall. I stood by the window, watching the rain continue to fall. The guest suite was larger than my entire apartment, with a sitting area, enormous bathroom, and views of the garden below. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Adrian stood there, holding a glass of amber liquid. Thought you might need this, he said, offering me the tumbler. Single malt, medicinal purposes only. I accepted the glass with a tired smile. Thank you for everything today. He nodded, keeping a respectful distance. Maya, there's something you should know. After today's incident, I've increased security around you and Leo. What does that mean exactly? It means Thomas or one of my other people will be watching your apartment, following at a distance when you take Leo to school. Nothing intrusive, but... He paused. Protection, if needed. I sipped the whiskey, feeling it burn down my throat. You think Ethan is dangerous? I think he's desperate and used to getting his way. That makes any man dangerous. Adrian leaned against the doorframe, careful to remain in the hallway. This isn't just about Sophia anymore. It's about keeping 2 children safe. And their mothers, I added quietly. Something flickered in his eyes. Yes, though you seem quite capable of protecting yourself. I shouldn't have to. No, he agreed. You shouldn't. He straightened. Get some rest. We'll figure out next steps in the morning. As he turned to leave, I called after him. Adrian, he paused, looking back. Why are you doing all this? Really, it can't just be because Sophia spoke to me once. He was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. My daughter chose you, Maya, in her silence. She's had one certainty a year that her mother is gone. Then she saw you in something. Recognized you. He shook his head slightly. I don't understand it, but I respect it. After he left, I sat on the edge of the luxurious bed, turning the crystal tumbler in my hands. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean, inside. I felt a strange calm settling over me. You are the eye of the storm, perhaps, but welcome nonetheless. I checked on Leo one more time, brushing his hair from his forehead as he slept, then slipped under the covers beside him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in this fortress of Adrian Moretti's making, we were safe. The thought should have frightened me more than it did. My phone woke me at 5:47 on my ear, an unknown number, the screen too bright in the darkened room. Leo still slept soundly beside me, his small body radiating heat. I slipped from the bed and into the suite's sitting area before answering. "Hello? Is this Maya Torres?" A man's voice, unfamiliar, slightly accented. "Who is this?" "A friend of your husband's. I have something you might want to see." A pause, then check your messages. The line went dead. Seconds later, my phone vibrated with an incoming texter, a photo of Leo and me getting into Adrian's car outside the school, followed by another of Sophia and Adrian leaving Romano's restaurant weeks earlier. A third image appeared, Sophia pointing at me, her lips forming "Mommy." My blood turned to ice. The security footage from the restaurant how had they gotten it? Another message appeared beneath the photos, "Warehouse on River St. Come alone by 8 a.m. if you want your son to stay safe. We just want to talk about your new boyfriend." I stood frozen, gripping the phone so tightly my fingers ached. This wasn't Athanayur. His tactics were more direct, more personal. This was something else. Something connected to Adrian, to Romano's, to whatever world I'd inadvertently stepped into when Sophia had pointed at me and said that single, life-changing word. I glanced at Leo, still peacefully asleep, then at the clock. 5:52 a.m. 2 hours to decide what to do. Every instinct screamed to wake Adrian, to show him the messages, to let him handle this with whatever resources he commanded. But something held me back at the same caution that had kept me alive during 6 years with Ethan, perhaps, or a deeper fear of binding myself too tightly to another powerful man. I dialed 911 instead, speaking quietly but urgently to the dispatcher. Yes, it was a threat. No, I didn't know who sent it. Yes, I feared for my child's safety. No, I couldn't wait several hours for an officer to take a report. The dispatcher's voice was professionally sympathetic, but ultimately unhelpful. They would send someone when available. I should stay where I was, keep my doors locked. I ended the call. Frustration building. In an emergency room. Minutes mattered. Decisions were made instantly. Lives saved by quick action. But here, in the murky waters of threats and implications, the system moved at a glacial pace. My finger hovered over Adrian's name in my contacts. Then, decision made. I pulled on yesterday's clothes and slipped into the hallway. The house was silent. Pre-dawn light barely filtering through the windows. I moved quietly toward the stairs, my nurse's training making my footfalls nearly silent. Going somewhere. Adrian's voice came from the shadows of his study, the door ajar. I froze, then slowly pushed the door open wider. He sat behind his desk, still dressed in yesterday's clothes, looking as though he hadn't slept at all. "You're up early," I said, avoiding his question. "I don't sleep much." He gestured to the chair across from him. "What's wrong?" I hesitated, then sank into the chair, sliding my phone across the desk. "These came a few minutes ago." Adrian read the messages, his expression hardening with each swipe of his finger. When he looked up, his eyes were cold in a way I hadn't seen before. "Santoro," he said flatly, using Marco's security footage. "The restaurant owner you mentioned, among other things." He set the phone down carefully. Too carefully. "This is about me, not you. You've become leverage." Leverage for what? I've been systematically buying out Santoro's legitimate businesses. Restaurants, shipping contracts, property. He's losing ground, becoming desperate. Adrian's voice remained calm, but I sensed the anger beneath it. Using children as pawns is his signature move. "I called the police. I said..." Something like approval flickered in his eyes. "Good, though they won't be much help. Because they're corrupt. Because they're slow, bureaucratic." He stood, moving to a cabinet where he withdrew a leather portfolio. "But we'll use them anyway. Documentation matters. What are you going to do?" Adrian spread several photos on the desk satellite images of what appeared to be a warehouse district. River Street has 17 warehouses. Santoro owns 3 of them. He circled locations with a pen. "These 2 are active year shipping and storage. This one is mostly empty. used occasionally for meetings. My head spun at his immediate grasp of the situation, the clinical way he assessed threat and response. This was a man accustomed to danger. "I'm not going to that warehouse," I said firmly. "Of course not." He didn't even look up from the maps. "You and the children will go to a safe house with Thomas. I'll handle Santoro." "Handle him how?" Now Adrian did look up, his dark eyes meeting mine. "Legally, I've been building a RICO case against him for months. This year he tapped my phone. AEUR is the kind of mistake we've been waiting for. Documented threats, attempted extortion. But the threat was to meet and talk, not a EUR. "Maya," his voice gentled, "men like Santoro don't invite women to abandoned warehouses for pleasant conversation." A chill ran through me as the full implications sank in. This wasn't Ethan's bullying tactics. This was something more sinister. What about Leo? If they know about him, know where he goes to school a EUR? He won't go to school today. Neither will Sophia. You'll all stay at the safe house until this is resolved. Adrian was already making calls, his voice low and urgent as he gave instructions to someone named Clinia Ur, the lawyer, AER, and then to Thomas. I sat immobile, watching him move with the efficiency of someone who had handled crises before. Part of me wanted to grab Leo and run as far from this world as possible. Another part recognized, with uncomfortable clarity, that Adrian Moretti might be the only person who could protect us now. Within 30 minutes, the house was quietly, efficiently mobilizing Mrs. Winters packed essentials for Sophia. Thomas appeared with another man, both of them exuding the calm alertness of trained security. Adrian changed into a fresh suit, somehow looking more imposing in light gray than he had in black. I woke Leo gently, explaining that we were having a special day off, an adventure with Sophia. His sleepy excitement at missing school made my heart ache. As we prepared to leave, Adrian drew me aside in the hallway. The safe house is a converted church in Red Hook. Sister Elena runs it as a women's shelter, but there's a private apartment in the back. You'll be safe there. A church? I couldn't hide my surprise. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Even men in my position need redemption. "Maya, the diocese and I have an arrangement." He pressed a small object into my Honda EUR, a new phone. "Use this if you need to contact me. It's secure. Your current phone stays here at EUR. They may be tracking it." I nodded, slipping the device into my pocket. "How long?" 24 hours, maybe less. Klein is expediting warrants based on the threats. Once the authorities move on Santoro, the immediate danger will pass. He hesitated. "I'm sorry you've been drawn into this." "It's not your fault," I said, surprising myself with the realization that I meant it. "Sophia chose me. Remember?" Something softened in his expression. "She has excellent judgment." We stood there for a moment, an uncertain current passing between UR, not quite attraction, not quite fear. Something more complex that had no name. The moment broke when Sophia appeared, clutching her sketchbook and a small suitcase. She looked solemn but unafraid, as if midnight evacuations were a normal part of childhood. "Ready, princess." Adrian knelt before her. "You're going on an adventure with Maya and Leo. I'll join you soon." She nodded, then stunned us both by speaking clearly. "Promise." Adrian's composure cracked briefly, naked emotion flashing across his face. "I promise. Tesoro. Always." As we slipped out the back door to where two identical SUVs waited, I felt Adrian's hand brush my lower back a light touch. Barely there, but somehow steadying. "Trust Thomas," he murmured. "And Maya, if anything happens, anything at all, or use the phone. I'll come." The conviction in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel protected in a way I hadn't since before Ethan, before I learned how dangerous men's promises could be. Leo, excited by the adventure, chattered happily as Thomas drove us through the quiet, pre-dawn streets. Sophia sat beside him, occasionally nodding at his stories about tugboats and lighthouses. I watched the city slip by, wondering how my life had changed so dramatically in the span of a few weeks. From struggling single mother to a woman being whisked to a safe house, because she had become valuable to dangerous men. Miss Torres. Thomas spoke for the first time since we'd left. Mister, Moretti asked me to give you this once we were underway. He handed back a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and what appeared to be legal documents. Maya. Klein prepared these emergency custody papers. Sign them if anything happens to delay my return. They grant you temporary guardianship of Sophia until I come back or other arrangements can be made. AEUR. I stared at the papers, understanding the immense trust they represented. Adrian was walking into danger and ensuring his daughter would be protected EUR by me, a woman he barely knew. Is he sûr? I began, then stopped, not wanting to alarm the children. Thomas met my eyes in the rearview mirror. Mister, Moretti is very good at what he does. Miss Torres, he'll be fine. I nodded, tucking the papers away, but a sense of foreboding settled over me. Whatever game was being played between Adrian and Santoro, the stakes had just become terribly personal. The safe house, when we reached it, was exactly as Adrian had described to Ur. A small, brick church with a discreet side entrance leading to an apartment that looked nothing like a church facility. Modern, secure, comfortable without being luxurious. Sister Elena, a surprisingly young woman with cropped hair and a practical demeanor, showed us around briskly. Bedrooms upstairs, kitchen fully stocked, security system active. The children can play in the garden if they stay away from the fence. I'll be in the main building if you need anything. You don't seem surprised by all this, I observed as the children explored their new surroundings. She smiled slightly. Adrian has been supporting our work for years. Sometimes we host guests who need privacy, women escaping dangerous situations, among others. She touched my arm gently. You're safe here, Maya. No one knows about this place except those Adrian trusts implicitly. After she left, I set about making breakfast for the children, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. Leo, adaptable as always, was delighted by the adventure. Sophia was quieter but seemed relaxed, drawing at the kitchen table while Leo built a fort from couch cushions. I checked the secure phone periodically, but there were no messages. Outside, rain began to fall again, pattering against the windows. I made the children hot chocolate, read them stories, played endless rounds of Go Fish, all the while. My mind raced with scenarios, each darker than the last. Around noon, Sophia suddenly looked up from her drawing, her small face alert. She went to the window, pressing her palm against the glass. What is it, sweetie? I asked, joining her. She pointed outside, then handed me her sketchbook. The drawing made my blood run cold your dark water, and two figures falling, the same image Adrian had described, rendered with childish intensity. It's just a drawing, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Just imagination. She shook her head firmly, pointing at the drawing, then at the rain outside. Is someone in the rain? I asked, peering through the window. The garden was empty, the street beyond quiet. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She pointed at the drawing again, then made a gesture I'd come to recognize her sign for Daddy. A chill ran through me. Whatever was happening with Adrian, Sophia somehow sensed it. I'd seen this before in the era your children who became agitated just before their parents' condition worsened, spouses who arrived moments before cardiac arrests, claiming they just knew something was wrong. I pulled out the secure phone, hesitating only briefly before dialing Adrian's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried Thomas next. No answer. Sophia was watching me, her small face solemn. It's okay, I said, projecting a calm I didn't feel. Your dad is very smart and very careful. He'll be fine. She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. Hours passed with excruciating slowness. I fed the children lunch, supervised an elaborate Lego construction, checked the phone obsessively. By late afternoon, even Leo's boundless energy was flagging. I set both children up with a movie, then slipped into the kitchen to try Adrian's number again. This time, to my relief, Thomas answered. Miss Torres, everything okay at the safe house? Yes, Boudier. What's happening? Sophia is upset, drawing those water pictures again. A pause. Mister, Moretti is in a meeting with Santoro. Negotiations. Negotiations, what does that mean? Another. Longer pause. Santoro requested a dinner meeting to resolve differences. Mister, Moretti agreed, on condition that you and the children remain untouched. A dinner meeting, I repeated skeptically. At a warehouse. A neutral location, Thomas corrected, with appropriate security measures. When will it be over? Soon, Mister. Moretti asked me to tell you not to worry. Everything is proceeding as expected. But something in his voice, a slight tension, made me doubt his reassurance. Thomas, I said quietly, moving further from the living room where the children were watching their movie. Sophia is really upset. She drew her water picture again, AUR, the one with two people falling. She pointed at it, then made her sign for Daddy. Is Adrian in danger? The silence that followed told me everything. I'll call you back, Thomas said finally. Keep the children inside. After he hung up, I stood in the kitchen, hands gripping the counter as I tried to think clearly. Whatever was happening, Adrian had tried to shield me from EDUR, perhaps to protect me, perhaps because he didn't trust me with the full truth. Either way, I was here, responsible for two children while their fathers played out some dangerous game across the city. My nursing instincts kicked in at assess the situation, prioritize safety, take action. I checked the locks, confirmed the security system was active, gathered essential supplies in case we needed to move quickly. Then I returned to the living room, settling between the children with forced calm. Sophia immediately climbed into my lap, her small body tense against mine. I stroked her hair, murmuring reassurances I didn't fully believe. On my other side, Leo leaned against me, half asleep after the excitement of the day. The secure phone rang just as the movie was ending. Thomas again. The meeting didn't go as planned, he said without preamble. Mister, Moretti is fine, but there's been a complication. What kind of complication? Santoro produced some evidence. Security footage altered to implicate you in money laundering at Romano's. It's fake, but convincing. His voice was grim. Your ex-husband was there, claiming he has evidence you're involved with organized crime. My blood ran cold. Ethan was at the meeting with Santoro. Apparently, they've formed an alliance of convenience. Officer Ward provides police protection for certain Santoro operations. Santoro helps him build a case against you. That, say your words failed me. The corruption was staggering. Mister, Moretti is handling it. He's working with federal contacts to expose both Santoro and your ex-husband. Thomas paused. But there's another problem. Santoro knows about the safe house. How? I demanded, fear spiking. You said no one knew about this place. There's been a leak. Mister, Moretti is implementing contingency plans now. I'll be there in 20 minutes to move you to another location. Where? Better if I tell you when I arrive. Get the children ready. Essentials only. After he hung up, I sat motionless for a moment, processing this new reality. Ethan had aligned himself with Santoro were crossing lines I never imagined he would cross, all to maintain control over Leo and me. And Adrian was handling it through federal contacts, AEUR. What did that even mean? Sophia was watching me, her dark eyes troubled. She touched my cheek, then made a series of gestures. Ayur, her father, water, then a new sign, bringing her hands together as if in prayer. Church, I guessed. Yes, we're in a church. Sweetie, we're safe. She shook her head in frustration, then pointed at her sketchbook, at the dark water. A terrible understanding began to form. Sophia, is your father near water? Is that what you're trying to tell me? She nodded vigorously. The river, I asked, remembering that both Santoro and Adrian controlled shipping operations. Another nod, more urgent. I pulled out the secure phone again, this time texting rather than calling. Sophia says, water, river danger. No response, moving with controlled urgency. I gathered our essentials, your medications, documents, a change of clothes for each child. Leo was confused but cooperative, sensing the tension. Are we going on another adventure, Mommy? He asked as I helped him put on his shoes. Yes, baby. Thomas is coming to take us somewhere even safer. Is Sophia's daddy coming too? I hesitated, looking at Sophia, who was clutching her sketchbook tightly. I hope so. Sweetie, I really hope so. As we waited for Thomas, an uneasy feeling grew in the pit of my stomach. Something about this didn't add up. If Santoro had compromised the safe house, why wait? Why give us time to evacuate? And why would Sophia be so insistent about water? About danger? I thought back to what Adrian had told me about her mother's death, EUR, a medication error at a hospital, anaphylactic shock. Sophia had witnessed it, had been traumatized into silence by it. But what if there was more to the story? What if it hadn't been an accident at all? The pieces suddenly clicked together, EUR Santoro's evidence implicating me, a nurse, in wrongdoing. The timing of Elena Moretti's death coinciding with Adrian's business expansion. Sophia's drawings of dark water and falling figures. Santoro hadn't just targeted me because I was close to Adrian. He'd targeted me because I was a nursier, perhaps, to echo the circumstances of Elena's death, to suggest history repeating itself. To make Adrian believe I might be involved, just as the nurse who had disappeared after Elena's death had been involved. The secure phone buzzed with a text. On my way. 5 minutes, I texted back as Santoro connected to Elena's death. No response for a long minute, then yes. Stay inside. Adrian knows. My hand shook as I set down the phone. This wasn't just about business rivalry or territorial disputes. This was personal vendetta, playing out over years, with Sophia caught in the middle. And now Leo and I were caught in it too. A car pulled up outside, headlights sweeping across the windows. I gathered the children close, peering through the curtains to confirm it was Thomas. The rain had intensified, pounding the pavement in sheets, turning the street into a river of its own. But as the car door opened, it wasn't Thomas who emerged, but a stranger. You are tall, menacing, moving with purpose toward the safe house. I backed away from the window, heart racing. Upstairs, I whispered to the children, "Quickly, hide under the bed and don't come out until I call you." Leo, sensing my fear, took Sophia's hand and led her upstairs without question. I heard the soft thud of their footsteps, the creak of the bedroom door, alone in the living room. I looked for a weaponer, anything to defend myself and the children. My eyes fell on a heavy fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. I grabbed it, positioning myself behind the door, and pulled out the secure phone. Someone's here, not Thomas, armed. The response came instantly. Police are on their way. 6 minutes, hide. 6 minutes might as well be 6 years. I gripped the fire extinguisher tighter. Every sense heightened as I heard footsteps on the porch, then the rattle of the door handle. For a moment, silence. Then a voice, "You're familiar." Terrifyingly familiar. "Maya, it's Ethan. Open up. I know you're in there." I remained silent, barely breathing. "I just want to talk," he continued, his voice taking on the false reasonableness I knew too well. "About Leo, about what's best for our son." Still, I said nothing. "These people you're involved with, you're Moretti. Santoro, they're dangerous. Maya, you're in over your head." A pause. "I can protect you, both of you, but you need to come with me now." The handle rattled again, more aggressively. "Maya, I'm not asking again. Open this door or I'll break it down. Police business." I heard the distinct sound of a gun being cocked. Ethan was our médiateur. Of course he was. He'd come in his capacity as an officer, giving himself legal cover for whatever he planned to do. My mind raced. If I opened the door, he might take Leo, might hurt us both. If I didn't, he might shoot through it. 6 minutes until real police arrived, EUR if they arrived at all. If Thomas's text was accurate, last chance, Maya. I made my decision. Setting down the fire extinguisher, I moved to the door, pitched my voice to sound frightened but compliant. "Okay, Ethan, just don't hurt anyone. I'm opening the door." I unlocked it slowly, then stepped back. Retrieving the fire extinguisher and holding it behind my back, the door swung open, revealing Athanair in uniform, gun drawn, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. "Where's Leo?" he demanded, stepping inside, scanning the room. "Safe," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Put the gun away. Ethan, you're scaring me." His eyes narrowed. "You don't look scared, you look different." I was different. Weeks of Adrian's quiet respect, of Sophia's trust, of taking steps to free myself from Ethan's control, they had changed me in ways I was only beginning to understand. "I want to see my son," Ethan said, moving further into the room. "He's sleeping, please. Let's talk first. Explain what's happening." He laughed without humor. "What's happening is you've gotten yourself involved with a war between Moretti and Santoro, and your boyfriend's losing. Adrian is not my boyfriend. No." "Then why is his daughter calling you mommy? Why are you living in his house, taking his money?" Ethan's face twisted with contempt. "I always knew you were a whore, Maya." I felt a calm detachment settle over me. "You are the same focus I found in the ER during critical cases. Is that what Santoro told you, that I'm sleeping with Adrian? That's why you're helping a known criminal target your own son?" Uncertainty flickered across his face. Leo was never the target. Santoro just wants leverage against Moretti. Once Moretti backs off, everything goes back to normal. "Normal," I laughed bitterly. "You're taking bribes from a mob boss. Ethan, you planted a tracking device on our child. You violated a restraining order. Nothing about this is normal." His expression hardened. "Enough talking. Where's Leo?" "I told you. Safe." "Upstairs, then." He started toward the stairs, gun still drawn. I moved without thinking, swinging the fire extinguisher with all my strength. It connected with his gun arm, sending the weapon clattering across the floor. Ethan howled in pain, then lunged for me. His face contorted with rage. We fell together, his weight crushing me against the hardwood. I fought with the desperate strength of a mother protecting her child, scratching, kicking, anything to keep him from reaching Leo. Ethan grabbed my throat, pinning me to the floor. "You stupid bitch," he hissed. "You never know when to give up." Black spots danced before my eyes as his fingers tightened. I clawed at his hands, my lungs burning. Then, suddenly, his weight was gone. I rolled to my side, gasping for air, to see Adrian Moretti standing over Ethan's crumpled form, expression cold and focused. "Are you all right?" he asked, kneeling beside me, his hands gentle as they examined the bruises forming on my neck. I nodded, still struggling to breathe. "The children are upstairs, AER. Thomas is with them. They're safe." He helped me to a sitting position, his eyes never leaving my face. "I'm sorry, Maya, I should have anticipated this. How did you—" I coughed, my throat raw. "Sophia," he said simply. She kept drawing the water, the falling figures. It was a warning about the ferry terminal where Santoro was holding our meeting. He'd planned an ambush. On the floor, Ethan groaned, beginning to stir. Adrian's expression hardened, but he made no move toward him. "I won't touch him," he said, reading my concern. "That's not how this ends." As if on cue, the front door burst open. I tensed, expecting Santoro's men, but instead saw badges, uniforms, AEUR, not local police, but federal agents. "Internal Affairs," said a stern-looking woman, flashing credentials. "Officer Ward, you're under arrest for violation of a protection order, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, accepting bribes, and obstruction of justice." Two agents hauled Ethan to his feet, cuffing him despite his protests. "You can't do this," he sputtered. "I'm on duty at your police business, EOR. Save it for your union rep." The woman cut him off, then turned to Adrian. "Mr. Moretti, thank you for your cooperation. Your information was accurate." Adrian nodded once, his arm still supporting me. "The children, safe and accounted for? We have units at the ferry terminal now, apprehending Santoro and his associates." She glanced at me. "Miss Torres, we'll need your statement, but it can wait until tomorrow. You should have a medical examination first." I nodded, still processing what was happening. Adrian had worked with Internal Affairs, had set up Santoro and Ethan, had used legal channels rather than street justice. As the agents led Ethan away, he twisted back toward us, his face ugly with hatred. "This isn't over," he spat. "You think you've won, you've just made it worse for yourself. Maya, no judge is going to give custody to a mob boss's whore." Adrian tensed beside me, but his voice remained calm. "That's enough. Officer Ward, I recommend silence at this point. Your lawyer will thank you." After they left, the house fell quiet except for the continued drumming of rain on the roof. Adrian helped me to the couch, his movements careful, respectful of my personal space despite the intimacy of the situation. "The children," I asked again. "Upstairs with Thomas. They didn't see anything." He sat beside me, keeping a small distance between us. Sophia knew something was wrong. She became extremely agitated at the ferry terminal, kept drawing the water, the falling figures. It was a warning Santoro had planned to stage an accident there, similar to what happened to Elena. "Her death wasn't an accident, was it?" I asked quietly. Adrian's face tightened with old pain. "No. It was made to look like a medication error, but the investigation revealed otherwise. The nurse who allegedly made the mistake disappeared because Santoro's people took her AEUR after she administered exactly what she was told to administer. Why would Santoro kill your wife? Old grudges? Territory? A message?" His hands clenched briefly. Elena's father had refused Santoro's business proposals years earlier. Taking her was delayed revengeur and a warning to me about expanding into his territory. And now, he targeted me because I'm a nurseur to echo her death. Adrian nodded grimly. "And because Sophia connected with you, he saw an opportunity to strike at both of us simultaneously. But you were ready. You used it to trap him instead." Something like respect flickered in his dark eyes. "I've been building a case against Santoro for years. Working with federal authorities, documenting patterns of corruption, bribery, extortion. Your ex-husband provided the final piece. You're a serving officer involved in criminal conspiracy." I thought of the controlled anger I'd glimpsed in Adrian during our interactions, the strategic mind that always seemed several steps ahead. You could have handled this differently, more directly. "You mean violently?" It wasn't a question. There was a time when that would have been my first instinct. His gaze shifted to the stairs, where the children remained. Sophia changed everything. She deserves a father she can be proud of, or one who solves problems through legitimate means. The weight of those words settled between USAEUR, his commitment to reshape himself, his world, his methods, all for his daughter's future. Before I could respond, small footsteps pattered down the stairs. Sophia appeared, her face lighting up when she saw Adrian. She launched herself into his arms with a sob of relief. "It's okay, Tesoro," he murmured, holding her close. "Everything's okay now." Leo followed more cautiously, coming to my side, his small face serious. "Mommy?" Was that Daddy's voice I heard? I pulled him onto my lap, wincing slightly at my bruised ribs. "Yes, baby." Daddy came, but he had to go away again. He won't be bothering us anymore. "Good," Leo said with unexpected vehemence. "He makes you sad." Out of the mouths of babes, I held him tighter, marveling at how children cut through pretense to the heart of truth. Sophia had settled on Adrian's lap, but she reached out one small hand toward me, her eyes seeking reassurance. I took her hand, forming a bridge between our two families. "We're all safe now," I told her, including Leo in my gaze. "The bad men can't hurt any of us anymore." She nodded solemnly, then pointed to my neck where bruises were forming. "Hurt," she said clearly. Her second word to me. Adrian's expression darkened at the reminder of what Ethan had done, but he controlled it quickly. "Maya is strong," he told his daughter. "Like you." In that moment, sitting in the safe house as rain continued to fall outside, something shifted between the four of USAEUR, a recognition, perhaps, that whatever had brought us together, whatever dangers we had faced, we had emerged on the other side as something more than strangers thrown together by circumstance. Not quite a family, not yet, but something with the potential to heal, to grow, to become whole. The path ahead would be complex legal battles, recovery from trauma, building trust where fear had reigned. But as Sophia nestled against me, as Leo cautiously offered Adrian his precious toy tugboat in a gesture of acceptance, I felt hope unfurling like a fragile bloom after winter. Whatever came next, we would face it together. 6 months later, The courtroom was silent as Judge Wilson delivered her ruling. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, this court grants full custody of Leonard Torres to his mother. Maya Torres Ethan Ward is granted supervised visitation once monthly, contingent upon completion of anger management and substance abuse programs. I exhaled slowly, relief washing through me in waves. Beside me, Jonathan Klein squeezed my hand briefly. "You're a rare display of emotion from the normally reserved attorney. Furthermore," the judge continued, "the restraining order against Mr. Ward is to remain in effect for 3 years, with no contact permitted except during supervised visitations." Across the courtroom, Ethan sat stone-faced between his attorneys. The past 6 months had not been kind to him, EUR suspended without pay pending the outcome of the internal affairs investigation. Forced to move in with his parents after his assets were frozen. The man who had once terrorized me with his power now looked diminished, ordinary. "Court is adjourned," Judge Wilson declared, rapping her gavel once. As we exited the courtroom, Klein briefed me efficiently on next steps. EUR finalizing the divorce decree, updating Leo's school records, scheduling the first supervised visitation for 3 months hence, after Ethan completed his required programs. "Congratulations, Maya," he said as we reached the courthouse steps. "You've prevailed against significant odds. I had significant help," I acknowledged. Klein's expression remained professional, but a hint of warmth crept into his voice. "Mr. Moretti chose well when he invested in your case. In me, you mean." Now a genuine smile touched the lawyer's lips. "Indeed, though I suspect the investment has been mutual." I couldn't argue with that. The past 6 months had transformed all our lives in ways I never could have imagined that rainy night at Romano's. Santoro was awaiting trial on multiple federal charges. His empire dismantled piece by piece. Ethan had lost his badge, his pension, his reputation, and Adrian had emerged from the shadows, cooperating extensively with authorities to legitimize his business interests in exchange for immunity from prosecution for past activities. The price had been steep many of his shipping contracts seized, properties confiscated, fortunes significantly diminished. But what remained was entirely legal, transparent, above board. Sophia Security, his new maritime security consulting firm, was already building a reputation for excellence, specializing in port protection and anti-trafficking measures. More remarkably, Adrian had made it a point to hire reformed offenders, giving second chances to those who, like himself, sought redemption. As for me, I'd completed my advanced nursing certification, transitioning from the general ER to the Pediatric Emergency Department EEUR, a move that allowed more regular hours and better pay. Leo was thriving in his new school, his nightmares about Ethan gradually fading. And Sophia. Sophia had blossomed, no longer selectively mute. She now spoke freely with those she trusted, though she remained thoughtful and observant by nature. Her therapist called her progress remarkable, attributing much of it to the stable environment Adrian had created and the female nurturing I provided. We had settled into an arrangement that workday Sophia spent afternoons with me 3 days a week, while Leo joined her for playdates on weekends. Adrian and I maintained professional boundaries. Our relationship focused on the children's well-being rather than our own complicated attraction. But tonight, that might change. Adrian had invited me to dinner at Romano Seyeur, now under new ownership, the Santoro connection severed. The same table by the window where everything had begun. I found him already seated when I arrived, watching the rain-dappled river through the window. He rose as I approached, his dark eyes warming in a way that still made my pulse quicken. "Maya." He greeted me with a brief kiss on the cheek. "You're our first physical contact beyond handshakes in 6 months. You look beautiful." I smoothed my simple blue dress self-consciously. "Thank you. It feels strange to be back here." "Full circle," he agreed, holding my chair. "I thought it appropriate for tonight." "The children are okay?" I asked as I sat, despite Thomas's assurances that both Leo and Sophia were happily watching movies at Adrian's house. Maternal worry died hard. They're fine. Sophia is teaching Leo to play Chessa e Yur, or her version of it, which involves significantly different rules. His smile softened his features, making him look younger, unburdened. She's expecting a full report on our grown-up dinner. And what exactly is this dinner? I asked, meeting his gaze directly. We've been careful for months. Adrian, professional, focused on the children. Too careful, perhaps. He toyed with his water glass. The threats against us are neutralized. The children are secure. Your divorce is final as of today. He paused. I thought it might be time to acknowledge what exists between us. My heart raced. We'd been circling this moment for months, the undeniable connection that had formed amidst crisis. The quiet moments of shared understanding, the way his hand sometimes lingered near mine without quite touching. And what is that? Exactly, I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Adrian reached into his jacket pocket, withdrawing a small velvet box. My breath caught, but he didn't open it, simply set it on the table between us. I'm not proposing, he clarified immediately. Not yet. That would be premature, presumptuous. His eyes held mine. But I wanted you to know that I see a future where that might be possible. If you're willing. I stared at the closed box, emotions swirling your attraction, caution, hope, fear. Adrian, our worlds were so different, still are in many ways, less different than before, and he pointed out, I've chosen a different path, for Sophia, for myself. A pause. For you, if I'm being honest, and if I'm not ready, if I need more time, then the box stays closed, he said simply. I can be patient, Maya. The past months have taught me that valuable things are worth waiting for. I reached across the table, not for the box, but for his hand. His fingers wrapped around mine, warm and steady. I've learned to be careful with my trust, I said softly. But I do trust you, Adrian, more than I thought possible after Ethan. Something eased in his expression. That's enough for now. We ordered dinner, the conversation shifting to lighter topics. Your Sophia's progress in school, Leo's new fascination with chess, despite not understanding the rules. My recent promotion at the hospital felt normal, comfortable in a way I hadn't experienced with a man in years. As we finished our meal, Adrian's phone buzzed with a text. He checked it, his expression growing serious. The children, I asked immediately. They're fine. It's Thomas. He showed me the screen a simple message package delivered. What package? Adrian hesitated, then set down his phone. I've been working with federal investigators to compile all evidence related to Elena's death. Today they recovered the final piece of your video footage, confirming Santoro ordered the medication switch. His voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the emotion beneath it. Elena's case can finally be closed, properly. I covered his hand with mine. That's why you chose tonight for dinner. Closure, he nodded, for the past, and perhaps a beginning for the future. Outside, the rain had stopped. Through the window, I could see the lights of the bridge reflecting on the water no longer dark and threatening, but shimmering with possibility. I don't need to open the box tonight, I said quietly, but I'd like to know we're moving in that direction, slowly, deliberately. Relief and happiness flickered across Adrian's face. At whatever pace you need, Maya, I'm not going anywhere. As we left the restaurant, walking along the river where our story had begun in danger and deception, I felt a profound sense of rightness. The path ahead would have its challenges, a year merging our lives, helping the children adjust, navigating the complexities of Adrian's pasta but for the first time in years. I wasn't walking it alone. Later that night, after checking on both sleeping children, your Leo in the guest room that had gradually accumulated his toys and books, Sophia in her room adorned with her increasingly hopeful drawings, Adrian and I stood on his rooftop terrace, watching the city lights. Sophia showed me her latest drawing today, he said, leaning against the railing beside me. The water isn't dark anymore. I smiled, remembering the evolution of her artwork at from the ominous black water and falling figures to progressively lighter scenes. What color is it now? Blue, clear, with all four of us standing on the shore. He turned to face me. She's healing. Maya, because of you. Because of all of us, I corrected. Because we made difficult choices, chose light over darkness. Adrian's gaze held mine, the moonlight silvering his features. I have one more choice to make, he said quietly. A commitment to you. From his pocket, he withdrew a folded document à not the ring box, but something equally significant. What is this? I asked, taking it from him. A moral covenant, he explained. My promise to you in writing that I will never return to my former life, that I will always prioritize our family's safety and well-being, that there will never be secrets between us that could endanger what we're building. I unfolded the paper, scanning the carefully drafted texte a personal contract, legally meaningless perhaps, but morally binding. Adrian had signed it already. His bold signature at the bottom. You don't need to sign anything in return, he said. Your presence is enough, but I wanted you to know that I understand what you need to feel secure. No ambiguity, no shadows. Tears pricked my eyes as I refolded the document. This means more than a ring, Adrian. He smiled slightly. The ring can wait. This couldn't. I stepped closer, eliminating the careful distance we'd maintained for months. I don't think the ring needs to wait much longer. His arms encircled me, tentative at first, then more confident as I leaned into his embrace. When his lips met mine, it felt like coming home a sanctuary built not of walls and security systems, but of trust, respect, and shared purpose. Above us, the sky had cleared, stars emerging from behind the departing storm clouds. Below, the river flowed peaceful and clean, carrying away the darkness of the past, and somewhere in the house below, 2 children slept soundly, their futures no longer threatened by the shadows that had once defined their parents' lives. It wasn't a fairy tale ending in those don't exist in the real world. It was something better, a hard-won beginning, built on truth rather than illusion, strength rather than fear. As Adrian's arms tightened around me, I knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, 2 wounded souls who had found in each other not just passion or comfort, but redemption. The water wasn't dark anymore, and neither were we. 1 year later, the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Harbor Light Park drew quite a crowd. City officials, press families from the surrounding neighborhoods. Located on the site of the old ferry terminal where Santoro had planned his final move against Adrian, the park represented transformation in its purest form. Mommy, can we go to the splash pad after? Leo tugged at my hand, 7-year-old Patience exhausted by the speeches. After Daddy cuts the ribbon, I promised, still marveling at how naturally the word Daddy had come to include Adrian in our family vocabulary. Sophia stood beside her father at the podium, solemn in her blue dress as Mayor Chen praised Sophia Security's contribution to the waterfront renovation project. At 5, she maintained the gravity that had defined her, even in silence. Though now it was punctuated by moments of unexpected joy. Today marks not just the opening of a new recreational space, but the reclamation of this waterfront for the families of our city, the mayor announced. Mr. Moretti's vision and generosity have transformed what was once an industrial wasteland into a place of community and healing. Adrian spoke briefly, thanking the city council, the contractors, many of them reformed offenders employed through his Second Chance initiative, and the Children's Hospital where I now worked as a pediatric emergency nurse manager, the hospital's new Child Life program. Jointly funded by Sophia Security and operated independently, had transformed how we treated our youngest patients. When the speeches ended and the ribbon was cut, Sophia ran to join us, taking Leo's hand with the easy familiarity of siblings. Splash pad now, she asked, looking up at me hopefully. Absolutely. I smiled, adjusting her hair ribbon. Let's wait for Dad. Adrian joined us moments later, shedding his formal jacket in the summer heat. His hand found mine automatically, our wedding bands catching the sunlight. Successful launch, I asked as we followed the children toward the water feature. Beyond expectations. His smile was relaxed, genuine ear so different from the controlled mask he'd worn when we first met. The mayor wants to expand the program to other waterfront locations, and the hospital board has approved additional funding for the Child Life program. You've built something remarkable, Adrian. His fingers tightened around mine. We have all of us. We watched as Leo and Sophia ran through the water jets, laughing as they tried to dodge the unpredictable spray patterns. Around them, other children played, their parents relaxing on benches beneath shade trees that would one day grow to maturity. It's strange, Adrian mused, to stand here and remember what this place was. What almost happened. I knew he was thinking of that night a year, the confrontation with Santoro, the revelations about Elena's death, the beginning of the end for the shadow empire that had defined his former life. The water isn't dark anymore, I said, echoing Sophia's artwork. He nodded, his expression softening as he watched his daughter, our daughter now. In every way that mattered, splash joyfully through clear water. No, it isn't. After the park, we drove home not to Adrian's brownstone, but to the larger family home we'd purchased in a quieter neighborhood, modern, secure without being fortress-like, with a garden for Sophia's sunflowers and a small workshop where Leo built increasingly elaborate model ships under Adrian's patient guidance. That evening, as the children prepared for bed, I found Adrian on the rooftop terrace, nursing a glass of whiskey as he stared at the distant lights of the city. "Penny for your thoughts?" I asked, slipping my arms around him from behind. He turned, drawing me against his chest, just reflecting on how much has changed, how unlikely our path has been. From a waitress being pointed at by a silent child to this, I smiled up at him. I'd say impossible, not just unlikely. And yet, here we are. His hand cupped my cheek. "I keep waiting for you to realize you've married a reformed criminal. Former businessman with questionable associates," I corrected, our private joke. "Besides, I prefer to focus on the reformed part." His kiss was tender, still holding the wonder of new discovery despite a year of marriage. When we separated, his expression had grown more serious. "Klein called today. Santoro's final appeal was denied. He'll serve his full sentence." I nodded, feeling the complex emotions this news sturdier. Not satisfaction exactly, but closure. And Ethan, completing his probation in Arizona, the restraining order remains in effect. Adrian's protective instinct still flared at the mention of my ex-husband, though the threat he posed had diminished to almost nothing. He hasn't attempted contact in 8 months. Good. I rested my head against his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. That's all in the past now. From below came the sound of childish laughter, or Leo and Sophia engaged in their bedtime routine of secret handshakes and made-up languages. The sound traveled up through the open terrace door, wrapping around us like a blessing. "They're happy," Adrian said softly. "Truly happy. We all are." I turned my face up to his. Against all odds, against all logic, we found our way to happiness. Later, after the children were asleep, Adrian and I lay together in the peaceful darkness of our bedroom. His fingers traced idle patterns on my bare shoulder as we talked in quiet voices about ordinary things, school projects, work schedules, weekend plans. "You know," he said eventually, "Sophia asked me something interesting today. Oh, she wanted to know if our family has 4 people or 5. I raised myself on one elbow, studying his face in the dim light. "What did you tell her?" A smile touched his lips. "I said we'd have to ask you." My hand moved to my still, flat stomach, where our secret had been growing for just 8 weeks. "You knew?" "I suspected." His hand covered mine. "You've been tired, skipping your coffee. Leo mentioned you got sick at the zoo last week. I was going to tell you this weekend. Make it special." Adrian's smile deepened as he pulled me closer. "This is special. Right here. Right now. Our family growing. Building on the foundation we've created." I settled against him, marveling at how far we'd come from that rainy night at Romano's, when a silent child had pointed at a waitress and said, "Mommy." 5 it is. Then, I murmured, sleep beginning to claim me. The perfect number. Outside our window, the city continued its nighttime rhythm. Somewhere, the river flowed peaceful and clean, its surface reflecting starlight rather than shadows. And within our home, 4 soon-to-be 5 hearts beat in a harmony that once would have seemed impossible. This was not the ending of our story, but rather the middle a chapter in a continuing narrative of redemption, of second chances, of love built on truth rather than illusion, the most beautiful chapter of all.